I've often said that mindfulness is the practice of 1. Noticing everything that arises in our field of awareness, and 2. Noticing this without judgment, attachment, or aversion. I've also said that this also means that we notice any judgments, attachments, or aversions and resistance, all of which are certain to arise during our practice. When I teach mindfulness courses, I go deeper into how the practice benefits us on so many levels. But as a first entry point benefit, for instance, most of us are likely to feel a little more calm and a little less stressed once we understand how to practice correctly. At the other end of the spectrum, we shift into the state of self-realization, where we experience ourselves as awareness itself and nothing else. This experience may be described, upon reflection, as a timeless boundlessness without a center, a non-duality or unity consciousness potentiated with infinite possibilities. Such an experience helps to gradually dissolve the persistent sense of a separate self, localized in time and space, so that we are less and less bound by its identity, its history, its biography, its wounds and traumas, its expectations and demands, its judgments, and all the things that we would typically hold as integral to the construct of the personal I. Each time you bring your mind back gently and even humorously to its original purpose, you are training yourself to be compassionate. In the meantime, however, there is another very important benefit that we acquire through our practice: the consistent experience of compassion. Let me explain how this works. Because we aim to notice anything that arises within our stream of consciousness or field of awareness, and because we aim to do this without judgment, attachment, or aversion, we're certain to experience what we would typically describe as failure. Why? Well, there are 2 ways in which we experience this failure. First, we feel we have failed when our habitual mind gets distracted from its object of focus. The breath, sounds, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and sensations in the body, all these are objects of focus that you want to rest your mind on. But when you get distracted, you may judge yourself as having failed. Instead of noticing these things, the mind always wants to get into some story or other. Our to-do lists, our relationships, the person who irritated us at work, the dread we have about getting together with family, the anxiety we feel about our financial situation, and so on. Now, the second thing that happens is we also feel we've failed when our mind judges us for judging ourselves, our thoughts, our experiences, our reactions, our distractions, and also for judging other people. But if we stick to the job at hand, which is to gently bring our mind back again and again and again to noticing every time we realize that it is lost in story, or in judging, or in attaching, or in avoiding, or in resisting, we will experience the energy of compassion. The key words here are gently and again and again and again. You see, each time you bring your mind back gently and even humorously to its original purpose, you're training yourself to be compassionate. Judgment and criticism come from the ego, which is a bullying mind of perfectionism. I cannot overstress the value of allowing compassion toward yourself. In fact, I'd say it was the greatest benefit I experienced early in my mindfulness practice. Almost overnight, it dissolved years of self-judging, self-criticism, self-loathing, and unworthiness that had caused so much of my suffering. Instead, I became much, much kinder toward myself, much more forgiving, and much more encouraging of myself. And I found that more and more I was able to do the same for other people. Almost all of us have grown up with the belief that without judgment and criticism of ourselves and others, we and they will never improve. The opposite is actually true. Judgment and criticism come from the ego, which is the bullying mind of perfectionism. As far as it is concerned, you will never be good enough. In one aspect or another, it will convince you that you are wanting or lacking. Now, judgment and criticism, whether of self or others, can and often does work, but not without a price. Painful memories and associations, reactive behaviors of thought, word, and action, and the resistance towards those associations, all of which get lodged in our bodies. The mind of love, of God, of infinite intelligence, on the other hand, has nothing but love to offer. Love which is able to notice and discern without judgment or punishment. Love that is able to hold all tensions, all apparent paradoxes, conflicts, concerns, and awful and unsettling feelings in its limitlessly tender, compassionate, and affirming grasp. Indeed, there is nothing that the mind of love, of God, of infinite intelligence cannot handle if we let it. And it is this letting that is the arousal of compassion within us, again and again and again, until it becomes an unstoppable river. You and I and the world could all do with a lot more compassion and far less judgment, attachment, and resistance toward ourselves and toward all other beings. Indeed, we can never be too compassionate.